Guys, it's been too long. So I'm hopping on here today because I've been posting my options portfolio on Twitter. I'm trying to take over the mantle for Josh Mandel. He is an incredible trader. He has made the greatest trade I've ever witnessed, and I pale in comparison, but I'm still sharing my information. I want to talk MSTR options, backtest simulations, ATM, global macro. I'm going to get it all out there. This is going to be the base case video, and we're going to move forward in the next few months. I'm super psyched. I think things are going really well. I've got a lot of things in the works with a bunch of different people. The world's a small place if you're on the internet. So let's get into it. I don't want to bore you. So first, here's the portfolio. You can see the 380 calls I was scaling into last summer. Those have done pretty well. And the MSTR 320 calls, those were the Junes I rolled. June 300 calls, that's the synthetic long with the intention of exercising. September calls, whatever. And then I have some short calls on for the week. I like the farther out of the money weekly calls. I've been selling those off and on. The only reason I'm able to do that is because of this back test I created. This is all free on Achilles Intelligence. You can use it if you'd like. And what it allowed me to do is see, okay, when couldn't I roll these calls, and how many shares would be called away based on different sort of historical price patterns. And now the future doesn't replicate the past exactly, and the stock can move any which way any given week. But based on the market cap of strategy and relative to where it was, the ATM usage, I have decided in my own brain what sorts of calls I'm willing to sell to create different amounts of premium, because I hate not selling calls. It's renting out your shares, but you have to do it strategically. If you do it improperly, if you don't do it well, you'll have immense amounts of shares called away, and it's not beneficial or helpful. Limiting upside, you have to figure out what kind of upside you're limiting. And for me, I'm comfortable limiting my upside using weekly calls that are 20 to 25% out of the money based on different conditions I see on a week-to-week basis. So that's how I do it. I won't be selling 10%, 15% out of the money calls so long as I'm bullish on the stock. And right now I'm very bullish on the stock. So I'm bullish hedging, as Josh likes to call it. You can see before the March run up in 2024, the strategy was trading with just shy of a 30% debt to equity ratio. Right now we're at about 19% debt to equity ratio. Its market cap prior to that run up. And the reason I reference that run up is because it was very abrupt, it was very sharp. And in terms of selling covered calls on a weekly basis, which is what I do, and they're not really covered calls, they're essentially calendar spreads against my long options positions, which I've optimized and which I believe to be the best positions to hold. Then there was a month period in March where you would have really gotten wrecked in short-term positions. And now I'm happy holding short-term call positions or short-term short call positions because the market cap is so much larger and we have this significant ATM, which I don't think is actually that bearish for the stock. I think the BTC yield is great, but I do think it limits the upside in a short period of time. So in a week, I don't think we're going to see a lot of 50% weeks, 40% weeks like we did in 2024 necessarily. We saw a few there, which are really, really harmful for those short volatility plays. Now, you can look at the ATM usage during that last little run-up. The ATM usage was quite insignificant as opposed to the recent ATM usage, which is heavy, and there's always shares in the market. It's unlikely that market makers will be borrowing anyone's shares to hedge these positions as sailors, selling them into the market on a daily basis. Is that bad? Again, I think the BTC, to justify a premium, you have to have yield. I don't think selling shares for BTC is bad so long as it trades at a premium. So things are on track. I'm super happy. But you have to understand, trade the market you're given. Before we get into that, I do want to reference ATM. So ATM usage here is Strike's still sucking wind for ATM. Common ATM is going strong. That's great. I like the ATM. Strike and Strike performed quite well today. I think these are fantastic products. I really want to see them used more and more. It ups Bitcoin torque. This is the ace up the sleeve along with S&P 500 inclusion. Strategies in a winner-take-all position for offering these preferred shares. No one's going to buy the other. If I was a market participant, I wouldn't buy anyone else's preferred shares. I don't care. The yield would have to be very high. Maybe if you give a 15, 20% yield, I'd buy your shares. But at that point, it's very risky for the company because now, if Bitcoin's CAGR is between 20 and 30% annually at some point in the future, and they're offering a 15, 18% fixed coupon, they're not even getting BTC per share. So I don't know if that's a great play. Now, getting into the macro stuff and kind of the longer term stuff. So also market cap, more money has to flow into the stock to shoot it up. So again, portfolio recap, I'll sell, depending on the market conditions that week, I'll sell calls against a large portion of my call position. I won't sell calls against my other just equity holdings, but I will against my call positions, because all calls I will have to exit at some point. Now, Global M2, we've all seen this. Raoul Paul, Real Vision. It's great. I'm bullish on the stock, and I'm going to talk about why this is playing out in real time. Now, charts, anyone can draw a line and make it fit and make it look good and be hopeful. But let's look at the real data, the real macroeconomic data that is supporting all of this. So now Global M2 is going up. Why is it going up? Well, let's first talk China liquidity, which I think is kind of a good indicator of where the puck is headed. I titled this Liquidity Clown Show Timeline because that's exactly what we live in. Everything's a fugazi. It's all based on liquidity. It's all numbers on a screen. The world's not even real. So People's Bank of China reduced the reserve requirement by 50 basis points on May 7th. This adds liquidity into the system. As you all well know, you can see here the reserve requirement was dropped by 50 basis points from 8 to 7.5. Now, they also lowered the 7-day reverse repo rate, which is a primary facility for injecting liquidity and managing short-term interest rates in the Chinese economy. And that was lowered from 1.5 to 1.4. Also seen here, 7-day reverse repo rate. China is essentially saying we are issuing liquidity in the market, $138 billion. This comes out to about $138 billion worth of new liquidity coming into the Chinese market. That's peanuts in terms of the global macro scale, but it does show you that they were hurting from tariffs and they were trying to hedge an economic slowdown. Obviously, tariff deals were done or are getting done, which is great. I mean, you didn't have to be a genius to realize tariff deals were probably going to get done on 148% tariffs, but I didn't make that bet on the markets. The people who bought QQQ calls are good for you. Sometimes it just takes courage. Now, the Dixie's crumbling, and China's using these reverse repo facilities to crash their currency as well. So it's essentially a fiat race to the bottom. It is what's going on. A fiat race to the bottom, debase the currencies, issue liquidity. Dixie, I think, will continue trending down. Maybe not. Maybe it chops here. I'm not sure. Doesn't matter. That's all what I see going on. Now, how does that apply to MSTR? Well, MSTR is a nation state printing their own money and buying Bitcoin. I don't think as of now they're nefarious. So, and I'm not that opposed to the ATM so long as it's done in an intelligent manner. If it's done at low premiums, I don't like it at all. If it's done anywhere above 2, I think it's highly accretive. I think it's a great facility. I personally believe multiple to net asset value should be a function of future projections of BTC yield and the profitability of the company, the creditworthiness of the company, the value of the volatility, and a little bit the replacement requirement of the Bitcoin. So yeah, I don't think the ATM, I think more so the ATM just means you're not going to see those sharp, abrupt moves upward 50% in a week, this, that, and the next thing. Now, that's why I'm, short-term volatility. What does that mean? Well, MSTR is a good trade. I still think MSTR is a good trade. We're sitting on the eve of S&P 500 inclusion. Coinbase was included in the S&P 500. The strategy's already in the queues. Things are looking really good. The price of Bitcoin is on the rise. So I think, obviously this is a great setup, but I'm always bullish. I've been bullish for a year and I've been wrong a lot, but I've been holding off selling volatility until we got up to, I'm a little bit early, but I knew around $500 a share, I'd start selling volatility aggressively, short dated on my option positions. And that's what I'm starting to scale into. I think the implied vol is starting to keep pace with the realized vol. That looks fantastic, and it's hard to be bearish. I don't think now is the time to. I shouldn't make any recommendations for anyone else. I'm not deleveraging right now. I'm selling some upside because of the market we're trading. The market we're trading is a market with large amounts of ATM issuance, but huge potential moves on the horizon over a long period of time. So I'm synthetic long the underlying while selling short-term volatility on those synthetic long positions. That's how I'm doing it. And finally, we have a lot in the works. I've been flying around the country, meeting with investors, Chicago, Orlando, New York, everywhere. I think there's going to be a lot of good things coming into the works. We're going to have a lot of events, strategy, Bitcoin. Everyone's got to run their book, make as much money as you can so we can all have a great time over the next year. Thanks for watching. Always good to talk to you guys. Talk soon.